Michael, I'm interested in being a good gestalt therapist. So, what are the areas or the virtues that I should focus on?
In learning to be a good Gestalt therapist?
Yes.
Well, Gestalt is one of the more exciting approaches of psychotherapy that we've had over the last 100 years because it's very alive and spontaneous. It emphasizes the spontaneity of the exchange between the client and the therapist.
Yes.
So it works better if you can model that, if you're a spontaneous person yourself. And there's many therapies that are more oriented towards talking and thinking and reflecting. So somebody who's more like that naturally as a character probably doesn't get on so well with Gestalt.
Right.
If you're a spontaneous character yourself, if you can be funny and spontaneous and you like that kind of vibrancy, which is an important thing in Gestalt, then that approach probably suits you better.
All right. So, I should focus on my spontaneity and
No,
my...
I'm saying more the other way around. If you're a spontaneous person,
Yeah.
and if you like that, and you like aliveness and intensity in the moment, because of the here and now in Gestalt, then that kind of therapy suits you. You probably want to be a Gestalt therapist because you have some of that, and you're interested in the contact in the here and now.
Yeah.
So if you're a more shy person or a more kind of repressed person, then it's probably better to do another kind of therapy. But if you're like that naturally, then Gestalt is very exciting. In the way that Gestalt has developed, there are some limitations in it. So if you only learn pure Gestalt, then what works on the whole better is if you can combine it with things from other approaches. So for example, one of the standard techniques in Gestalt is two-chair work, where
Yes.
you get two parts of the client to talk to each other. It doesn't have to be parts of the client. But that, for many people, for many clients, is a really powerful technique. But normally it goes wrong. Like when therapists suggest it, they have a clever idea, there's two parts of the client, they are very obvious, then the therapist thinks, well, this obviously is the perfect situation for two-chair work. They say, okay, put this part over there, put that part over there, and then they start to facilitate an exchange between the two of you. And whilst it starts with a juicy idea, after 2 minutes somehow it falls flat. This is a common experience of many therapists.
What goes wrong here?
It's actually in the nature of the beast. So this is one of the things that is much more easy to understand if you complement Gestalt therapy with ideas from other approaches. So for example, body psychotherapy. The parts are anchored in the body. So if you can find where the person naturally feels the part in their body, then you can clock which body expression belongs onto which chair.
Yes.
So if you combine Gestalt and body psychotherapy, or some knowledge or perception imported from body psychotherapy, that works better. One of the things that often happens is that when you start that the client does two exchanges, one part, they go to the other chair, they talk back, and then suddenly they turn to you and say, well, now I feel shy, or feel exposed, or self-conscious. So in that moment, the dialogue, which is in principle a good idea, is broken between the two parts because they turn to you.
Yes.
Now at that point, very often, you could say that, you could simply say, the client says, I feel exposed. So immediately the question is, exposed to whom? Who's watching you? So then you want to be able to think about maybe the transference.
Yes.
That they feel exposed to you watching them. It's getting juicy there.
Yeah.
It's getting to some critical point. But just before they get there, they turn to you and there's some transference involved. So if you can understand that, which is Gestalt therapists might catch that in other ways, but it becomes very obvious if you complement Gestalt with psychodynamic understanding. So basically, Gestalt can be made to work more fluently, or that technique, let's say, can be better understood, and what goes wrong with it can be better understood if you complement Gestalt understanding with understanding from other approaches.
Right. So the key here is the integration.
Well, you said at the beginning you want to be an integrative psychotherapist.
Yeah.
Why do we want to do that? Why do we even have that idea? Because we know that,
One approach isn't enough.
well,
Being
you could
book to
say,
book.
it's certainly, well, sometimes they say to somebody with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you just have one approach. So, but there's many clients and they need many different things. So clearly the idea of integrating many approaches and how they conflict and how they complement each other ideally gives you a sort of synergy between the approaches, which should be able to give you the capacity to be a more effective therapist with one client, but
Right.
also respond more creatively and appropriately to a wide variety of clients.
Makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay, pleasure.